Will the Epstein Files be released now that Donald Trump signed it into law? Now that Congress has voted overwhelmingly, unanimously, but for one, to release the files? Or is he going to use the Pam Bondi stratagem to have her block the release, certainly, of his name on the files? Because she started a phony investigation in the Southern District of New York. I can't keep track of all the phony investigation, phony appointments, phony comments about transparency made by Attorney General Bondi. She's going to have a lot to talk about the next time she's in front of the House and the Senate, which is coming up. I mean, we just had Lindsay Halligan, her hand-picked prosecutor, bounced by a federal judge, and Pam Bondi criticized for phony filings that she made in front of the court. We cover it all on Legal AF, the YouTube channel, and here's a clip. Maxwell is saying that she's done testifying in proceedings. She spoke to Trump's, former criminal defense lawyer turned number 2 at the DOJ, Todd Blanche. She gave that interview where we know she lied through her teeth basically the entire time because we saw the emails. Who would have thought a convicted child sex trafficker looking for a pardon would lie? But we saw the emails from the Epstein estate where she knows a lot more than what she said she knows, obviously. And Blanche never cross-examined her on anything that we knew about her. But she's saying that if the House of Representatives, the Oversight Committee, wants her deposition now, she won't testify. She'll invoke the Fifth. She previously said that she wasn't going to sit for a deposition with the House because of the Supreme Court appeal that she had, but the Supreme Court rejected her appeal. So now she's saying, well, I still may argue in what's called the habeas corpus petition, which you and I called Popach, that she was going to do that, and use that as an excuse not to testify. I still have my constitutional rights to invoke my Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination because there's new evidence. The new evidence she's going to argue is Trump said it was a hoax. So if it's a hoax, shouldn't that have come in at trial? That's how she's kind of got Donald Trump, kind of cornered because Trump said it was a hoax. So she'll argue to the federal judges, look, if the President of the United States says it was a hoax, that should have come in at trial. That's what she'll argue, at least I believe. But she says she's not testifying. Now, James Comar, MAGA, Republican in the House Oversight Committee, he says that why would we even go to Texas if she's going to invoke the Fifth? Why even show up in the first place? Let's take her at her word that she's going to invoke the Fifth. We don't need to get her on camera invoking the Fifth while questions are asked her. Hey, what's your relationship with Trump? Did you see Trump ever with underage girls? But it's an improper invocation of the Fifth Amendment. Let's just talk about the Fifth Amendment for a minute. You can only invoke the Fifth Amendment if you're in a courtroom. If you have a reasonable belief that what you're saying will incriminate you in a future or current criminal investigation or prosecution. Let's unpack that for a minute. She has Queen for the Day immunity. So she's either admitting that she lied and blew her immunity that was given to her by Donald Trump. When Todd Blanche did that disgusting softball 7-hour interview where she lied through her teeth. And Todd Blanche wanted her to lie through her teeth, so he didn't challenge anything that she said, including the lies about Donald Trump. But she got immunity. She's either worried that she blew her immunity, although the Department of Justice has not said that they're going to blow, that they believe that there's no comment at all by even after the emails came out that she blew her immunity. But if she's already serving time for the underlying child sex trafficking 5-count conviction, she's in year 2 of a 20-year sentence. So what is the crime that she's worried about where she has to invoke the Fifth Amendment if MAGA wasn't running the House? The new crimes that she committed with the Trump regime, and she's going to use her lying with Blanche as the grounds for new crimes being charged because she just committed new crimes in Tallahassee. Absolutely. Now, if the House was controlled like it will be in midterms by Democrats like Jamie Racine, I would file a case to a judge to declare her invocation of the Fifth Amendment is improper. You just don't. We all listen. We all know it from television and movies. Oh, the Fifth Amendment. We all think we know it. But there has to be a legitimate fear of prosecution. And I would have that sorted out in a federal courtroom about her improper invoke. It happens all the time. Yeah. In federal court, the way when you and I handle it, a federal judge will say, Let's have a hearing about the exercise of the Fifth Amendment. What is your legitimate fear? If a statute of limitations is already run on something, the judge is not going to let you. It's just going to strip you of your Fifth Amendment, right? If the judge doesn't find that you could be legitimately prosecuted for something, the judge will often turn to the prosecution and say, give her immunity. If you give her immunity, then she'll be able to testify. So if you either give her immunity and she testifies, or you don't give her immunity, and I'm probably going to let her keep her Fifth Amendment privilege. But all that would get hashed out in a courtroom. Problem is, the MAGA is not going to go through this exercise, and so they're just going to say, like you said, oh, she took the Fifth. Why bother going to the Beverly Hills hotel version of the prison in Texas? And we'll just let her take the Fifth? But this is, again, we're trying to point out whether you're Republican or Democratic here on Legal AF that we're talking about due process, constitutional rights, and things that are right and wrong. We would not be having the same discussion if the House was controlled by adults that had D next to their name. So let's also, by the way, I would want to have the video of D. Lane sitting there and saying, isn't it true that you spoke with Donald Trump's DOJ a few months back and you lied to him the entire time? I invoke my Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Okay, isn't it true that what you were afraid to share? Isn't it true what you were afraid to share is that you observed Donald Trump with underage girls? I invoked my Fifth Amendment right against self-agreement. You're not going to answer that question right now. You were willing to speak with Blanche as I'm asking you if you observed Donald Trump do inappropriate things with underage girls. You're not going to answer based on the advice of my attorney. I'm going to invoke my Fifth Amendment. So you see how that would go, and then let the public see that that's what MAGA Republicans are terrified to see in a courtroom. Just to can round this out for our teachable moment in a courtroom, in a civil case, not criminal. You're allowed to take the Fifth Amendment privilege in a civil case, but it is held against you. The judge will give an instruction at the request of the other party to the jury that says, we are in a civil matter here. This is not a criminal matter testifying before the House. We're in a civil matter in a courtroom. Them taking the Fifth Amendment, you can make the adverse inference that their answer would be unhelpful. In other words, did you see Donald Trump have sex with girls? Fifth Amendment privilege. You can assume that the answer to that would have been not favorable for Donald Trump. That is an actual instruction that goes to a jury when it's invoked in a non-criminal proceeding. That's the little side gig about the Fifth Amendment outside of a criminal context when the person, yes, can't be compelled to testify against themselves if there's a legitimate fear of prosecution, but in all other matters, it's an adverse inference against them. Exactly. Just other things to mention. We expect that the DOJ will invoke national security, that they'll invoke in current investigations, and they'll invoke any other, it's going to re-victimize the victims, which we know the victims have said release the files. And then their other argument is that it's a privacy violation, and it creates new victims, that the wealthy men who are in these communications with Epstein or at the house or there or at his place, that they would now become the victims that the men involved with Epstein are the new victims. And that's an exact terminology used by MAGA Mike Johnson. And it's sick and disgusting, but that's sick and disgusting. Did you hear what Megyn Kelly said? That unless it's an 8-year-old, if it's a barely legal, these are girls who were raped. Let's not stop beating around the bush. Some of them as young as 14, and she actually ran on a show the theory that maybe it wasn't pedophilia because of their age 14, because they're not 8-year-olds. And even though one testified definitively that she was sexually assaulted by Donald Trump, there's no one that ties Donald Trump to rape. I'm like, this is where MAGA is right now. Yeah. So we expect that to happen. Also, that the DOJ, I think maybe they'll wait until 30 days. They'll drop 10,000 documents that aren't relevant. Then people be like, what's this? Don't worry, we've got more coming. And then they'll drop more and more and more. And I suspect what they'll try to do is within the batches of documents they drop, they'll find people so that they can give people some red meat. Like, they'll focus on Larry Summers and they'll F and be like, Look, we found it. And by the way, great, I could care less. Go to jail if you did something like that. I could care less, but we want all of it out there. And so I expect that that's what they're going to do. We'll keep you posted, though, every step of the way on that. Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, we do a podcast 5 years in the making called Legal AF. So join us there. Free commercial-free versions on Legal AF Substack. And if you really want to help the build, now is the time. Come over to Legal AF, the YouTube channel. Help us crash through the 1 million subscriber barrier. It's a big accomplishment in YouTube world. It helps keep us on the air. It helps me bring in new contributors, new interviews, people you want to hear from. Help us on Legal AF, the YouTube channel. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popak. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal A are there as well. We got some new reporting, we got interviews, we got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes where Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.